Hey, it's Ben, and this is Drambo by BeepStreet. Um, as most of you are probably aware now, Drambo was updated with audio unit hosting for the standalone app, which is very exciting. For me, it's exciting because I can do my Bruce Free and channel strip by Clevgrand and Audio Damage Chain right in the app, so I don't have to use another app to record my voice for these videos. But it's probably exciting for a lot of other people for more obvious reasons. So that means that you get audio unit instruments, and you can host them directly in the app. So here I'm hosting Spectrum by, I think, Thomas Burns. And as you can see, you can map parameters really easily, or you will see that it's easy to map them, but you can map them here. And then you can combine them with all of the other Drambo modules. So Spectrum can now have a filter really easily just by using a Drambo filter. You get audio unit effects. So you take something really simple like just the FM operator sound, and you can add all your favorite audio unit effects. For instance, I love the Spring Reverb by Eventide. And then you get Midi audio unit effects or generators or processors. For instance, the lovely step polyarp unit. So you can use all sorts of different arpeggiators and different MIDI effects and generators. That are going to do other things than you can do directly in the app using the MIDI modules. And then, of course, everything is mappable, and then you can p-lock and morph and record, and it's just a lot of fun and really opens up the app outside of just the core modules that you get that you can build things on your own. All right, I've opened up a blank project, and I still got my little recording chain here. But when you go to add a module using the module adder menu, audio unit instruments are going to be found under generator. Audio unit processors or audio effects are going to be found under the processor category, and then MIDI audio units are going to be found under the MIDI category. So it kind of just works them into the already existing structure, and they really are treated just as other modules. So that lets you do a lot of cool like routing and combining and Drambo-y sort of things with audio units, and that's one of the most exciting things I think about this update. So I guess it's time that we actually add something. To start, I'm just going to add in an audio unit instrument. So again, tap the module adder. It's under generator, audio unit instrument. Okay, so it comes in, and it's just like any other module with this blank box. And if you tap in, you get the audio unit list, and there's all your apps. When you go up to the top, if you scroll up to the top, there is a search feature. So if you have a lot of apps and you're looking for something, you can bring it up. Okay, so I've got my spacecraft. You have, this is like the default view when you open it up. And you're going to see like, there's the other part of the app. So this one, I guess it's not optimized for scrolling. That's okay. Get that away. If you want to make the app bigger, you touch this button, and that expands it. You can unexpand it. And then to get out of the view, the audio unit view, you tap the X button. If you wanted to switch your app, you don't have to totally remove the module. You just tap in, and release, and it's kind of like removing a module. You just drag it out of view, and then you can add something else. Just do an app that I know decently well. So Lorentz by Iceworks. And so this one is optimized for scrolling, so we can go this way. And I think that some apps are going to scroll down. It just depends on how the developer has set it up to be sized. So that's how you add things. And then you're going to see different audio unit types will have different inputs. So an audio unit instrument just has a MIDI input. That's kind of important to note. So it's, if you've been using Drambo to design your own instruments and that kind of thing, you've gotten used to probably using the MIDI to CV, which takes a MIDI signal and then, breaks it out into velocity, gate, and pitch. Audio units aren't going to look for velocity, gate, or pitch, any CV signal. They're just going to look for MIDI. So in this case, a MIDI to CV is just being bypassed. We could even take it out if we wanted to. The audio units are by default going to get their MIDI input from the track. If you added a audio unit processor, it's going to have MIDI input still, for MIDI automation and that kind of thing. But then it's also going to have a signal, an audio signal input. And of course, you could take a mixer and combine two audio unit instruments and then process them on one rack if you wanted to. The other type audio unit MIDI processor obviously has a MIDI input as well. So let's look at the outputs. I'm going to just add a filter for fun. So it's really fun. It truly is modular. You can use Drambo modules almost to add on, not just as effects, but to add on functionality to your favorite audio unit instruments. And then you can use audio unit processors and the MIDI audio units really as modules, not as actual apps. I mean, it fits into the modular ecosystem. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyways, so looking at this, audio unit instruments are going to output at least one audio signal, and multi-output audio units will send out multiple outputs that you can select. An audio unit processor is going to send out, again, an audio signal, and multi-output will work there as well. And then MIDI audio units are going to send out MIDI. So it's pretty straightforward. I just wanted to be very thorough and show how that works. So I think I may have just said that apps with multi-input work, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if I have any apps with multi-input, and I'm just going to backtrack on that. So I'm not sure. I haven't really tested that, but I know that apps with multi-output work. So I will go on the record and show you that. So something like the MIRAC kind of goes to the, I don't know, it's at the bottom of the list for some reason. So the 16-channel version of MIRAC, you can see, has the 8 outputs. And it shows 7, but then one of them is main. So I know that multi-out is working. I just am not going to speak on multi-input. Can't remember. Don't know if I have any apps. Doesn't matter. You'll be able to determine if it works. But you will see all of the outputs or inputs there if they're working. Okay, so they're really getting into the exciting stuff. I'll show you mapping parameters. To map a parameter, you go in to the app, and then you simply tap this map button. Now you can do one of two things. You can just like move a knob. So let's say I want to mess with the filter. I'm just gonna like wiggle a knob, and you see it's gonna snap back. I'll do the filter resonance and drive, and then maybe even something like the drift and the level of detuning on the saw, the pulse, and you're gonna see the parameters that have been mapped show up down here. Now, if I was looking for something and couldn't find it, or I want to see a list of everything that's truly mappable, or on a rare occasion, if like pressing a button doesn't map it, you can tap on this number down here, 5, and then you can go through the full list of parameters that are exposed to the host, in this case Drambo, and you just tap one. So we'll say sublevel, okay, and then you see a 6th parameter has been mapped. To stop mapping, you tap map, it goes back. Now when you exit the app window, you're going to see your parameters here, and now we can start messing with that. Okay, so that's great. You know, you can have fun there, but you're going to notice that they are modulatable. So if I had something here, I could select an input, and of course they are p-lockable. So you can do all your favorite Drambo tricks with your apps right here. That, you know, it works with scenes too. So can't really hear that too well. Okay, I wasn't super apparent on those, but it is working for the scenes too. And that's just, it opens things up so much, and it's so much quicker than if you're using Drambo and sending Midi and CCs out to other apps. Now, this is really cool. You can save your mapping as a preset now. So 2 ways you can save it: as just like an audio unit preset for this module. I'll go to presets. You see it's going to audio unit instrument. You can save it right in this list. Lorentz mapped, sure, whatever. And now if I'm, you know, on a different track or back on this track, doesn't matter which one, you can go look at your presets, and you won't have to remap them and like expose those parameters. It'll just be here. Now you could also, doesn't really matter honestly, but there is basically, you can save a chain of AUs or whatever inside of an instrument rack or a processor rack or whatever. So I could put my mapped Lorentz, and then, you know, maybe I like it with a filter, and then an Eventide reverb or something, or a Bleece delay on it. And I can expose the parameters here. But if I like this, I can save this whole chain as a preset in Drambo, as an instrument rack, by going to the module header, clicking on presets, and then saving it somewhere. I'm not going to do that right now, but it's very easy. So you can save like instrument combinations, you can save processor chains and dump them in anywhere. So just as like a workflow thing, it really speeds things up because you can recall all of that really quickly. I'll show this really quickly. It works like other, like anything else. I meant to do audio unit. If you wanted to unmap something, now these are just like module parameters. So you would double tap and remove, or set a value, or whatever. So that's how that works. It's very simple to map and then manipulate your audio unit parameters. One thing that I think it's important just to reiterate, I'm gonna change the presets, give it a little bit of release. I'm so used to doing things in Drambo, sometimes I forget how to do them in my other apps. If I had, maybe I was going to use like an arpeggiator, and I wanted to send it into this app, but if I wanted to like lock it into a scale in Drambo, you might have gotten used to using like a CV quantizer and setting a scale. That's not going to work because remember, the audio unit instruments are looking for a Midi signal. They're not looking for CV signal. So if you're using, especially a CV quantizer, but any other apps to like manipulate the note CV, like gate velocity or pitch, you would just need to use the Midi note generator from your signal to generate a Midi note to send into the app. So we would also need our Midi to CV in this case, and that's just going to allow you to further manipulate things. But it'll be, should be pretty straightforward. So what do I do now? I think I just tried. We okay? Okay, good. I'm starting with a blank slate again. One thing that you might want to do would be just something as simple as like combining two audio unit instruments into one sound. So it's just like you would combine any other sound in Drambo. You'd have your two audio unit instruments, and let's say we wanted to take like a volt patch. Let's see what this sounds like. Okay, that's fun. And then something else, or maybe just like a Drambo sound. So we would do like FM operator, something like maybe like a transient sound. Oh, we need our Midi to CV. So we want this and this together. Well, we just use a mixer, or some sort of a mixer. And there are multiple ways that you could do this, but what I'm talking about right now would be an actual mixer. And we'll hear it now. So you can start layering your sounds like however you want to and however many layers you want. Now it's important to note, once you start adding in like polyphony in your regular Drambo module chains and combining it with the mono output, it's really just audio signal coming out of, like one audio signal coming out of your audio units, you might get some voice stuff. So you see how the volume gets louder when I crank up the voices? I think what's happening is that our mixer is looking for 8 voices from both the FM operator, which makes sense. If I wanted multiple voices of the FM operator. But it's also looking for 8 audio signal voices, because that's what is coming out of the audio unit. And so it's basically multiplying that signal by 8. So it's going to get louder, which you may not always want. So we're going to take main and then we need to convert FM operator to, we'll see if this works. Okay, so it's not getting any louder. So really we have to convert the audio signal to mono. Otherwise it is going to like double up or multiply. Anyways, all that's to say is that the way that you might work in Drambo with polyphony and being concerned with how many voices you have doesn't carry through with your polyphonic audio instrument apps. It's just an audio signal coming out. There's not multiple voices like behind the scenes in Drambo like there are with your other modules. So forgive me for fumbling through that, but we figured it out together. So you might have to think about polyphony in a different way. So that would also be the case. Like if I had, maybe I want to do something with like I want to filter my volt with a Drambo filter. And maybe I want to do that so that I can, manipulate things like the envelope. Okay, so see here, this is polyphonic. The app is volt. It's polyphonic. However, it's only one audio signal coming out. So when I go to trigger an envelope to manipulate the filter in Drambo, there's only one audio signal coming in. So it's only going to trigger every like 8th key press, which you heard there. So this is, I guess, I don't know if it's paraphony or something, but it still sounds really cool, I think, but you're not getting like 8 filters for your 8 voices of the app, or however many notes of polyphony there are. So you would, if you want to take your audio signal from like a polyphonic instrument, think of everything you're doing after that as one voice. So you have one voice of a filter to manipulate with your envelope. And you can hear, like I'm holding down a chord. The chord is sustaining, but you're going to hear all of the notes each time the envelope opens up. Which sounds really cool, but it's not always what you want. But that's the way that audio units work. They don't send out actual multiple voices. They're just sending out an audio signal. But that means you can take an amp that doesn't have its own filter, or something like the really modular audio units, but something like Spectrum, for instance, or Spacecraft, which doesn't have its own filter either. You can now really expand the functionality of a lot of these apps using Drambo or other audio unit like processors to really sculpt the sound, and I think that's very cool. So I know, like a lot of people, the first thing you're going to want to do when you get the update is open up Drambo within Drambo, and you can do that. So it'll show up as both a generator under audio unit instrument and as a processor. I don't think it shows up under Midi, but maybe it does. Yeah, it does. It's a Midi effects. But you can do whatever you want, obviously, but one way you might use this is to have like 2 different Drambo projects open. So I'll go and open my then we'll open up another one here. And my iPad, it's a couple years old now. It's one of the Pro models, but it's from 2017, so it's not dated at all. It still works fine. But when you start opening a bunch of audio units and using them like you would use Drambo modules, your CPU could take a hit, and mine's gotten up there before. This is new, this little meter here, so my audio meter, but then these little like dots, that's your new CPU meter, so you can monitor things there. Let me add my other, actually I should do this on the other track. So just, be mindful. You'll know your own device, what it should be able to handle. But so now, like, I could have two different projects open. I can crossfade between them. I'll do that with my big crossfader. Okay, so something I was working on the same sample but pitched down, slightly different chops. So it really turns it into like a full performance view. Like on one track, I have two full Drambo tracks that I was working on after I fumbled around a little bit. But it's, I don't know, it's just cool. It's fun. And there are probably more, you could basically build like a full instrument that takes up all of your Drambo tracks, and then you can open it in Drambo and use it that way. It just opens things up a lot. And again, it's like it just expands the app a lot. And if you don't want to mess with all of the like building sounds or different instruments or effects using the regular modules, you now have a nice sequencer and some really cool like modulation and parameter locking functionality in this package. And you can do a lot of things with your other apps now. I know I kind of muddled through things, but if you have questions, probably the best thing to do is to go to the BeepStreet forum or the Audiobus forum or the Drambo Facebook group and ask there, because there's a lot of knowledgeable people, and the developer is also very active. And he or they can clarify a lot of this for you and answer other questions that you might have. So have fun.